Hello, I'm Jerome Acevedo from the Barbarian Philosopher podcast, and today I'll be discussing boxing versus Muay Thai, which is better for self-defense. In order to stay up to date with more content on MMA, personal development, and current events, hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon so that you don't miss anything. Let's start out with boxing. The obvious thing here is that boxers have the most well-developed hands out of any set of martial artists. That is all they do, and they are very, very proficient at it, obviously. Why is this important? Because most knockouts come from the hands. Even in styles where kicking and kneeing and these other options are available, most of your knockouts come from punches. So your most likely chance of ending the fight with a strike is going to be with your hands. So it makes sense to develop your hands as much as you can. In addition to that, boxers tend to have great head movement and evasive maneuvers. This goes for the footwork as well. Whereas Muay Thai has evasive footwork and cuts angles, it seems to me, at least in my opinion, that boxers have a more mobile style. A style that is more focused on cutting angles and creating angles where there weren't any. This, of course, opens up shots that may have not been there initially. There's a whole set of reasons for this in regards to boxers not having to worry about certain things that an MMA fighter or a Muay Thai fighter might have to worry about. But just at a surface level, boxers have, in my opinion, better evasive movements. Another benefit to being a boxer over, let's say, a Muay Thai fighter or a kickboxer is that your feet are constantly grounded. While I'm okay with kicks for self-defense, they do pose a risk. And if you're a novice, if you are just starting out in your training journey and you end up getting into a scenario where you have to use what you've learned thus far, I do think it's important to try and keep your feet grounded. Once someone becomes proficient with their kicks, then maybe that's a different story. But I do like the idea of, in a real life scenario, not using kicks unnecessarily, or at least being very trepidatious about when one would do it. In the cons section for boxing, there's the fact that hands are easily broken. Yes, most of your knockouts are going to come from punching. That being said, even with hands wrapped and gloves on the hands, most boxers, most punchers break their hands. Or I should maybe say it is very common for a puncher to break their hands. You don't have this problem as much with shin kicks or knees or elbows. And in that sense, boxing kind of takes an L. If you are in a scenario where you're getting down, perhaps more than one person, and you break your hand, this is going to impede, it may not stop you, but it is going to impede what you can do. And of course, we don't want to be impeded or diminished in any way in a real life scenario. On top of that, while boxers have highly developed hands, everything else is pretty much null and void. There is no really developed clinch work in boxing. There is no kicking. There is no takedown defense. There are no sweeps and throws. All that you can rely on is your hands. And God forbid one come upon a scenario where hands alone just isn't good enough. There's really nothing else to reach back and grab onto. On the flip side, we have Muay Thai. What are some of the pros for Muay Thai? Obviously, there are more options. While I do think it is true that boxers have much more developed hands and one should try and develop their hands as much as possible, to fight the average person, a good jab, cross, and perhaps a lead hook is more than enough in most cases. The average guy on the street is going to be overwhelmed with somebody who has a crisp jab and cross. Throw a lead hook in there, and even just basic head movement and footwork, and that puts one head and shoulders above the average individual. If this person who is in the self-defense scenario now finds themselves in a situation where hands alone isn't enough. They can always revert to their kicks. They can always revert to their knees. They can always revert to their clinch. They can revert to sweeps and trips and things of this nature. This makes Muay Thai a much more versatile style. And considering that one doesn't know what one would get into, what one is going to need to fall back on in a self-defense scenario, it is a huge benefit to have multiple options. Also, and this is kind of a play on the first, the clinch work in Muay Thai is very important. And why is clinch work very important? Even though there aren't traditional wrestling style, judo style, jiu-jitsu style takedowns in Muay Thai, in my experience, Thai fighters tend to have a pretty solid base and are not as lost in the clinch when someone is trying to take them down as, let's say, a boxer. I think that the average Thai fighter can hold their own against somebody trying to do a tackle or some, poor version that you're likely to see on the street of a takedown, because that clinch work is there. Understanding how to break balance, understanding how to control the head, shoulder, and hips. All of these things are practiced in Muay Thai, and of course we want to try to avoid being on the ground unnecessarily, or at least if it's not done by our choosing. And Muay Thai has that over boxing. In Muay Thai, you have other options, as mentioned, besides punching, which means that you don't have to risk breaking your hands. There's less of a chance to break your hands. If I find myself in close and maybe the person has a tight guard and their head is covered, I don't have to try to punch through that. I can elbow through that. I can knee through that. I can do other things that lessen the likelihood that I will damage my hands in a way that it would impede my ability to fight on. This is a very big plus in my opinion. In the area of the cons for Muay Thai, I would say that the con is that Muay Thai fighters tend to be a bit more stationary, a bit more flat-footed, and I do, of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but just generally speaking, this tends to be the case from what I see. And I do prefer mobility, especially in a street fight scenario. If you're facing more than one person, if this person has a blade or something like that, being able to get away and create angles and move in a way other than basic forward, backward, left, right, which is kind of what you see in Muay Thai. Yes, there are exceptions to the rule. Thai fighters, of course, do create angles for their kicks and things like this, but it's not as well developed, in my opinion, as what you would usually see on a boxer. So, which one is better between Muay Thai and boxing? I think the best option would be to go with Muay Thai, but an emphasis on boxing. Perhaps that's kind of a cheat, but I think that it will be easier to take the boxing in Muay Thai and apply that to a scenario that really requires hands than it would be able to take the lack of anything else in boxing and apply that where it may be needed. You're much more likely to find a gym, especially here in the United States, where the coach has had some boxing experience and can help you develop your hands beyond just the very traditional Thai style of boxing. You're also much more likely to find somebody who has boxed before to spar with in a Muay Thai gym than vice versa. You're not as likely to find a Muay Thai fighter in a boxing gym, or to have a boxing coach who can help you develop the aspects of fighting that a Muay Thai fighter would have. For that reason, although I do favor hands for a street fight, and I do favor the practicality of boxing, the overall availability of options, and the fact that you can take Muay Thai and fit it into a boxing format if need be, I will say Muay Thai, with an emphasis on the boxing aspect of things. Please go to the comment section below. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. What do you believe is better for self-defense, boxing or Muay Thai? Thank you for taking the time to watch. Peace out.